go. Yeah. All right. So there's there's like 15 slides on email. As I said, I'm not going to go through all of those. Just to say, in your service desk, you will have communications with email. Remember, we did an email ticket, phone ticket. We have those. Email, you should become quite expert in email. Email is kind of like writing a letter, except it's on the internet, right? And so there are some sort of uh, formality that's required. I mean, you need to keep that politeness of professionality in there. It's something. We don't. Hey, what's up? You know, unless you're sort of in some kind of low class sort of marketing sort of situation. But generally, we keep it professional. We identify ourselves, identify the person, and one of the things that we try and do in emails, and as I said, I'm not going to go over all of this in great detail. But one of the things that we try and do in emails is we try and keep it kind of concise. So, I mean, that would be the thing that I would say that makes our emails kind of different than a written letter of 30 years ago, where the written letter in 30 years ago, people were informed by their sort of Oxford University English classes, and so they were kind of doing what we would call something prosaic, that they would write in very carefully constructed sentences and paragraphs, which had a certain formula to them, which made them uh, that was what was required. Uh, Kind of the stuff that lawyers would put together. Nowadays, we sort of got kind of lucky with emails because people are using these in huge volume. So whereas before, 30 years ago, what would happen is your average person would see a written formal letter, two or three a day. But nowadays, your average working person is seeing, 20 or 30 emails. And so, because of that great volume of emails, we have sort of tended to get to a more streamlined way of doing it. And so, what you tend to find emails are going to have dot points, bullet points, and that's a nicer way to write. I think it's easier. Because there's less emphasis on sentence construction. You're not sort of worried about, what is the object of the sentence? What is the subject of the sentence? You're not worried about all of those English things that you spend a lot of time in your communication course learning. Uh, we sort of distill it down to just the very, very most concise. Now, having said that, it may be easier, it may actually be harder, to get the most amount of meaning out of the least amount of words. And that's definitely what we want to do in our email, get the most amount of meaning out of the least amount of words and not offend anybody. Um, so, yeah, you can do a whole course on how to write good emails. And there's a lot of stuff on here about that. And as I said, I'm just going to make this kind of short and sweet. But what I would say is because the email has exploded, it's there. We can sit here and emails, WhatsApp, WhatsApp Signal, Messenger, they're even taking over and they're part of our written communication. And WhatsApp is even less formal than email, right? People are using you, the letter U instead of the word you, and what up, and all kinds of sort of informalities, which wouldn't have been acceptable, certainly not in business 30 years ago. But that's sort of creeping in. So we get this creeping informality. But with the emails and the WhatsApp or any of those electronic forms of communication, I would say, we need to be so careful with it. Uh, in the 30-year ago thing or 40 years ago, we had our written communication. We talked to people on the phone, and that was that. With an email, what you have is something that's recorded that's going to be around forever. And there's all kinds of alternate uses that information that you've put in your email could be put to, which could be damaging to you or to your company if that email hasn't been thoughtfully prepared. So you don't want to sort of risk um, put yourself at risk in your communications that you're going out there. So, you have to be careful. So, what do I mean by putting yourself at risk? I mean, if you are sort of emotive at the time when you're writing an email, so because you're angry at somebody and you feel you've got this button there, um, and you can reply to everyone, this kind of thing, and you're angry at somebody and you're going to send this email. It goes to everybody in your organization. You know what? The rule of thumb would be, okay, go ahead and write the email, read the email, then delete it. All right. And if you're still angry, then go and talk to the person. So in other words, it's okay for you to have those thoughts and to write down the thing, but you definitely don't want to be sharing it, right? If you're sort of that kind of emotive thing. And it's likewise with the communications with your customers. If you feel yourself getting into that territory in an email where you're getting combative, emotional, angry, that email just, you know, do not hit the send button. That
I
email
have
is going
question,
to
Mr.
be
Mark.
around longer than you are. Yes, go ahead.
Is organizations' emails are being monitored?
There's a good question. What do you think? Is that a rhetorical question? I think you're asking the question with the expectation of what the answer is. What do you think? It depends on the organization, right? Certainly, the organization has the ability to monitor their email, and so depending on the organization, the people in the IT department here, the email goes and sits on the email server. They have control over that email server. I mean, they can go and how am I going to say this? It's not that there's somebody down in IT who's reading every email that goes in and out. No, it doesn't happen like that.
But
But
actually, do they have the authority to read like people's email?
if they wanted to,
No.
but they're not gonna do it in real time, right? So I mean, I could send a really nasty email to whoever, right? Really offensive, and there's nobody downstairs that's going to be reading that email. However, later somebody could make a complaint against me and say, Mark, he writes those blinking nasty emails. Could you check on that? And they say that to the IT people. And they say, well, yeah, okay, if I have to. And then they pull up the email. And though I have deleted it, right? I've gone into my thing, delete, delete, delete. They've got it, right? It's there. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean. Once you send the email, you've lost control of it. It's sitting on a server. That server
It can't
belongs to
be
your
undone.
organization. They can do with it whatever they want. It's going to be there forever. And also the person who received it, of course, they've got it as well. So it's very, very dangerous. Now, WhatsApp and Signal, they're a little bit different, and we do use those in business communications. I mean, what's different about WhatsApp and Signal is it's end-to-end encryption. And so what that means is I send something, and even though it's going through my college network, there's nobody here that's able to read that WhatsApp or that. Well, it's going through because we have Wi-Fi, right? And then it's connected to. But nobody here is able to read my WhatsApp or is able to read my Signal communications. Uh, and I think that's a huge sort of attraction of that software. However, there's been just this month there's a huge migration of people from the WhatsApp application to the Signal application. And why was that? And that's because the WhatsApp organization, which is now owned by Facebook, changed their privacy rules, which require that the people if you have a WhatsApp account, that you have to your privacy, your details, your personal details, would be available to Facebook. So that doesn't mean that they're going to read your WhatsApp app, but what it does mean is that they would be able to see who are your friends and what groups you belong to on WhatsApp, how often you're sending WhatsApp messages to this person, to that person. So they'd be able to sort of, by some method of computer analysis, go through and find out all about you and how you interact with WhatsApp, and who you interact with and when you interact with them, and who else they interact with. And so yeah, so Facebook is bad for that reason. I mean, so there's the saying that people say is, Facebook, it's a wonderful, isn't it? We got this free application. It's absolutely free. Nobody pays for it, and you're able to put all your pictures on there, and you're able to interact with everybody else. And Instagram the same, and um, Snapchat, all these others. But the saying is, well, it's free. That's because you don't know what the product is. You are the product, and how do we know that you are the product? So what Facebook's doing is not sort of, some people wouldn't even care. Maybe they like what Facebook's doing, because what it's doing is that you are the product. So your name and your details are going into these databases that are then being used by people that are trying to sell stuff. For example, Amazon, and Facebook is then getting paid by those companies to prompt you with things. So, for example, you're talking to somebody or you message somebody on Facebook or something about some motorcycle thing that you like. Next thing you know, there's an ad comes up on Facebook for this motorcycle product. Yeah.
So, Mark, I have
It's
question.
not it's not a coincidence. Yes.
If if some of the customers sent me an email and he said a bad thing to me, what am I supposed to do?
Well, you're in a very good position then, aren't you? Because if the customer sent you an email and they said a bad thing to you, you have a record of that. You have proof of their poor behavior. Um, because they're your customer, I mean, you want to sort of work this out with them. Definitely, you don't want to reply with something bad, also,
Because
right?
because he's angry.
Yeah, that's
Because
right.
of
You
his
you
anger,
want to cool him off.
wrote
This
this.
is this is
Yeah.
my this is what I think, right? If somebody's angry with me or I'm angry with them, email is not the place to discuss it. You know what I mean? And just for the reasons that we just said. If I'm really angry at somebody, maybe I'll write a little letter, something angry, but I'm not going to send it. All right. Then I'm going to delete it. Then I'm going to get up out of my office and I'm going to go and see them. Now, maybe they're not, yeah, that's if they're in the same building or the same, you know what I mean? But maybe I can't go and see them because they're in a different city or I just can't travel or whatever. So I'm still not going to send them an email. If I can't go and see them face to face. If I'm angry with somebody or somebody's angry with me, I want to see them face to face. And that's because there's so much communication from just looking in the person's face, talking to them. I mean, what I need to communicate to this person is that I'm not their enemy. You know what I mean? That we can find some common ground and we can sort this out without before we start sort of shooting each other. You know what I mean? There is somewhere in between, right? So the first thing you want to do is you want to go and talk to them and sort of calm this down. What I've found is, and here's a weird thing about that. Somebody sends me this thing and they're really angry and they're really, really wrong and they're really offending me. And then I want to write them a really bad email and reply. Then I go and talk to them. And you know what? Sometimes, and this has actually happened to me, I go and talk to them and I find out that not only were they not really, really angry at me, but I misunderstood what they said in their email. And then when I looked at it, I realized it was my fault. I thought it was their fault, but it was my fault. I'm like, oop. You know what I mean? It actually happens. And
So it
so,
means customers always right.
you go to them and you're angry, but you're biting your tongue, and then you realize, you know what? It's my fault. It's my fault. It's a good thing I didn't shout at them. You know what I mean? Because it's my fault. And as you say, the customer's always right. Well, I don't know, the customers, if we want to keep them as a customer, they have to be right. Yeah. But what I mean is this actually happens. I mean, I try to think of myself that I'm an honest person, but it's happened to me many times, a few times that I can remember, that I was kind of angry at somebody. And then when I went to talk to them, I realized that it wasn't their fault, it was my fault. And so if it happens to me, I think it might happen to other people too. And so I'm just really glad I didn't send them emails or, say bad things to them, right? So that's why I say if you feel that somebody sent something really bad, I would say just go and talk to them. You go and talk to them. You might find out, surprise, it's your fault, not theirs. And the other thing is, even if it is your fault, their fault, you're going to find out there's a lot more behind it, and probably there's something there that you didn't understand that you need to find out. So that's what I would say. Now, if you can't go and talk to them, second best thing is to talk to them on the phone. The last worst thing is to send them emails and letters, right? Don't ever send angry email, unless you don't really care about that person, right? Unless they're the enemy of your company and you don't want them as a customer, yeah, okay. But if they're your colleague or something like that, oh, bad idea. All right, so there is some other things there. I talked there a lot about sort of not being negative in your emails. There's some stuff here about using correct grammar. You don't really have an excuse for using bad grammar because you're allowed to shorten your things to dot points. And the other thing is you have grammar improvement tools like Grammarly. I mean, you can install these things onto your writing, and it'll check your spelling and your writing for you automatically as you go. Then there's chat as well. And I talked a lot about WhatsApp, which is what this is sort of this, um, instant messaging, which is WhatsApp, right? WhatsApp and Signal. Can be very, very good in business. You might say to yourself, uh, I try not to get angry. Somebody's asked me, I no, it's been a long time since I get angry, and one of the things that stops me from getting angry is I do realize that, hey, well, being married helps you to realize this, right? This is advice for the young men there, because one day you're going to get married. One thing you realize when you're married for a while is that, you know what? Actually, everything is your fault. Your wife will tell you that, and you won't agree. But after a while, you'll realize, hey, you know what? She's got a point. It was my fault. And yeah, so and I say that being married helps because generally a husband and wife are kind of different enough that it's going to kind of shock you a bit, and therefore you are going to realize that yeah, there's some things that you have to do. Anyway, so I'm raving now, and I'm sorry, I'm ranting. Um, so there's some things there about rules that we have for IM. The only thing I'd say about that is, yeah, do be careful. Permanent record. Don't lose your head, right? Don't ever send anything while you're in an angry mood. Um, oh, and the other thing is, not only don't send things when you're in an angry mood, but don't send things to people. This is advice from Mark, right? And you take it how you like. But one of the options that you have on your email is the carbon copy. And you can send an email to somebody, and you can send a carbon copy to a lot of other people too. When you do that, you raise the pressure of the communication. I like to kind of just keep it between me and the other person. I don't use a carbon copy for something where if I'm asking somebody to do something or something like that, to raise the pressure level. Um, I don't think that's helpful. And so, somebody might tell me I'm wrong.
Mr. Mark,
Yeah,
Mr. Mark,
I'm here.
carbon copy is that thing, right? It's like the acronym of CC.
Yeah. Okay, I call it carbon
Carbon
copy.
copy is the acronym of CC.
Yes, I call it carbon copy. I'm not sure what the CC stands for. I believe it's carbon copy, or it might be courtesy copy. But basically it means that if you
Makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, if you receive an email and your name is under CC, yeah, okay, so now we're talking a little bit more about emails, right? You receive an email and your name is in the thing where it says to, your name is in that. That means you're supposed to read the email, and then you're supposed to do something. If the email is sent to you, that means you're supposed to read it and you're supposed to do it. If the email is your name is in the CC, that means this is a carbon copy for you, or a courtesy copy, so that you can see that this is happening between these two people, so that you can monitor it. But I'm not asking you to do anything. If you receive a carbon copy, you're not being asked to do anything other than just to look at the email and know that this is happening. There's another one which is a BCC, which stands for blind carbon copy or blind courtesy copy. And that is that's done in many different things. You'll notice all addresses of the other people that are receiving the message, and that's just to protect people's privacy. So you might have a lot of a lot of people that you're sending this email to, and you want to protect their privacy because maybe they don't want everybody else to know their email address. And so, you send it as a BCC, and so they know that they're getting the email, and lots of other people are getting the email, but they don't know who the other people are. And so that's, you know, that's you'll see that's quite a common sort of thing in business. And we got to protect people's privacy, right? And yeah, so BCC is a good thing to use. Um, Anyway, so I sort of went off topic a little there a bit, but that was kind of fun. Now, this point here, and we will come back to emails in a minute, but this thing here about the knowledge base, this is related to the OTRS, to the service desk software. So the idea of a knowledge base is that when you write a ticket and so and so called in and they had this problem with their computer and this is what we did to fix it, this is what we did to fix it ends up in this thing that we call the knowledge base. So the knowledge base is going to be a record of all the issues. We call them incidents, don't we? Incidents and problems that arose with our customers, and then the solution that was found for that incident or problem. So that then this information is in this knowledge base, and so when a user calls into the service desk and they have a problem, incident, an incident occurs, then it might be the first time you've seen an incident like that. You can check in the knowledge base if that incident has occurred before and how it was solved. So that's the idea of a knowledge base. And so OTRS has a knowledge base built into it, and so do other um, uh, service desk software. They'll have that. All right, so here's some other things that you might do to how to write. No, you might have to write things if you are in a IT organization and it's creating new software. You might have to write software manuals. If you're in you're IT organization, but you're part of the networking solution, so a network analyst, a network person, then you might have to draw up diagrams and create manuals regarding the actual structure and the working of your network. And so, yeah, if you might have to do troubleshooting, all of those things. So, bear in mind there, the note that I made a minute ago is these type of things, especially in a multicultural, multilingual sort of society like we have here in Qatar. People come looking at your manual from lots of different backgrounds. If you're writing in English, you want to keep it sort of short sentences, dot points, so that your communication is more easily understandable. See, like this, dot points, easy to sort of see and read, and people can pick it up without sort of too much trouble. So our lesson is going to stop in 10 minutes, but we'll keep going for a little bit longer. There's a bit about knowledge management systems and knowledge base administrator. I'm not going to say too much about that. You can have a look at that later. Um, yeah, more about documents. So I'm just going to say here that as a person working at a service desk, there's lots of documents that you might have to be involved in. You might have to sort of revise those things in the knowledge base so that they meet a particular format. You might have to do these service manuals. You might have to do step-by-step instructions. You're going to write tickets for sure. And you might have to write frequently asked questions. Frequently asked questions. There's going to be links on the web page that your organization has somewhere that is going to have these answers to questions that people have all the time. And all of this helps us to have this sort of 24/7 support that people have. So nowadays with internet, people are looking to those kind of solutions. They, 2 o'clock in the morning, having a solution with their service provider that they can use without having to actually talk to somebody. Now, you guys will all be familiar with that. It was all kind of new to old people like me, but things like Matrash too. I mean, you can go and check to see what traffic tickets you've had, see the status of your visa. Um, transfer the ownership of a car, apply for a new driver's license. All of those things you can do at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? Using the app that you have. So that's I was going to say that's the future, but it's not even the future, it's the present. And so absolutely you guys are going to be using those kinds of ways of communicating with customers. I mean, you could be working for like a government, like here in Qatar, and working with something like Matrash, um, or you could be working or Rito. Not it, I mean, a lot of the stuff there is still on the phone, but you could be also working with a database system that interacts with customers online. So there's some information there about writing tickets. You guys have done a ticket as a lab, and so there we have the ticket is going to have some information on it. What is the priority of the incident? What is the nature of the incident? Who's involved? The priority actually sort of uh, what are these tickets made for? So what are they made for? Help with software configuration. So that is this ticket here is not an incident, it's a service request. Remember, there's not everything that comes to the help desk is an incident. We also have service requests and changes. So this one here, help with software configuration, that would be a service request. In other words, so somebody's got like a new software and people on the service desk will help them install or and configure it. Those are a kind of service request. Yeah, okay, so how do we write a ticket? We're going to have something in the ticket where we record what is required. And maybe, as it says here, data fields and text fields. Data fields could be like text boxes, and text fields are going to be where we're going to write a lot of stuff. And so, yeah. So here's some data fields here where we can do these drop down things. And here's some text where we can sort of type in a bunch of stuff. Yeah, it is important that we get things accurate. I hope that's obvious why it would have to be accurate. Um, hmm. And what else? Yeah, a lot of stuff about accuracy. And then there's many slides now about emails. And I've sort of gone on um, at some length about emails. Uh, Kairo's asking about tickets that are service requests. Yeah, tickets can be a service request, or they could be respond to some kind of incident. Um, and the one that we were looking at there was a service request. Emails should be friendly. We say forgiving. Um, yeah, as I said, so many. The problem with emails, and I'm sorry I'm harping on this now, is that they don't really convey enough information about what's going on. And so it's very easy that a person is writing an email and they think they're writing it in a kind and generous way, but just the words that they use are not well chosen. And then the person receiving the email thinks that what's been sent is an attack on them personally. And maybe it isn't. It's just that the person who wrote the email was a little bit clumsy in the way they wrote it. That's probably what happened. You know what I mean? Or supposing the person was attacking you because they didn't listen to the last 5 minutes that I was sort of raving, and they sort of broke Mark's rule of emails, which is don't send an email when you're angry. And so they sent you an email when they're angry, not knowing that rule. And then when you go and talk to them, they're not angry anymore. And so 90% of all this dumb stuff that they said in the email is no longer relevant. But unfortunately, it's still recorded in the email. So you see why don't send it when you're angry. Yeah. So there's some other things there about accuracy and resolution of the email solutions. The thing here is recording things in our database, which is what we call our knowledge base. Okay, here's some more stuff on the knowledge management system is got gathering information from our tickets. So what this slide is trying to show us is that there's several incidents of the same type that occurred in our system. And each of those had different tickets assigned to them and had different solutions applied. And then this knowledge base by um, consolidating the categories is able to see well, they all have the same kind of solution, right? See that these queries, these tickets all have the same type of solution. And so therefore, if we have a ticket like this, which is what the blank screen, they all have the same kind of solution. Well, maybe that points to the fact that we got multiple incidents with the same solution. That's a problem that we need to sort out. But the thing is, the service desk people can now look in that database and see what is solution 352 for a blank screen. Okay, so standard resolutions. The slide that was just shown could be a standard set resolution for a blank screen. We're going to have to stop according to my time thing here. We can start again, but to be honest, I'm kind of a little bit tired of talking about this. And it is taking a bit of time, but I'm going to stop anyways. So I'm actually going to stop at that point. Let's stop at slide 42 and we'll pick up from there next time.